So, welcome to the main cut. I'm your host, Jade, and today I'm here with our guest, Porshawna Nicole, a celebrity hairstylist who's worked across many industries from TV and film to commercials, fashion shows, music videos, and print. Porshawna has worked on some incredible sets. From How to Get Away with Murder, which is like my personal favorite TV show. I've rewatched it several times. Which my husband is tired of. But many TV series from How to Get Away with Murder to Criminal Minds, Love and Hip Hop Hollywood, All American, Girls Trip, LA Fashion Week, and the list could go on and on and on. So we are very lucky to have her time today. But we'll be talking about Porshawna's journey as a textured hairstylist and get her views on how the textured hair community can improve. So welcome to the show. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
No, we're lucky. Like I said, you're a busy woman, so we are very lucky to have your time.
I'm busy enough.
So, first, please tell us a bit about your journey as a hairstylist. How did it start, and how did you get to where you are now?
Well, you know how people are like, when I was a little girl. But no, really, when I was younger, I loved just like doing crazy things to my Barbies. And graduating high school, I asked my parents if I could go to cosmetology school, and they told me no. They shot me down. So I had to take the traditional route of like getting my undergraduate degree and a graduate degree. And then finally, I snuck to cosmetology school when I came back to California. And in cosmetology school, I met who's someone who's like a dear best friend of mine today, Iman Newborn. She like asked me to help her on a music video, and we just hit the ground running when we graduated, and it kind of just like my career kind of just like took off from there. But yeah, I've always loved doing hair. Like some of my Barbies were bald, some of my Barbies had bobs, like but nothing. Yeah, all my Barbies, something was happening with their hair.
No, I always find it really interesting. There's a recurring theme that I hear in these conversations, which is sometimes people like they either went straight into hair or there was something that kind of deviated them off the path, but they always found their way back.
hmm
So
Yeah,
I
I
think,
do.
yeah, when something is your calling, you end up finding a way.
Yeah.
So when did you tell your parents that you'd been sneaking off to cosmetology school?
Oh, so my cosmetology program was Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. So
Wow.
I naturally didn't say anything. They just assumed I was going to work. I didn't say anything until I was a month away from graduating. Yeah, and to their surprise, they were like, "What?" But they're proud today. They're proud today.
Okay, I'm glad to hear it. I'm sure it was a shock to their system, but yeah, you have done some amazing things.
Yeah.
I mentioned at the beginning, you've worked across a lot of industries, from editorial to TV, film, commercial, music videos. How have you managed to work your way into all of those spaces? Because they're not easy to get into.
It's about just networking, staying humble, having talent, and always just on the grind, always hustling, like always saying, like, well, if you need a hairstylist for this, I'm available. You always just really have to network. That's what really has like kept me going like all of these years is networking and just being talented and being normal, whatever that means to the individual, like not to be a diva, like you're
Mm,
not bigger than the client. Just do your job, be nice, go home.
Yeah. But it makes a huge difference. You know, when people choose a stylist, it's a really personal decision.
Mhm.
So, you know, regardless of whether it's on a film set or in someone's home or in a salon, it's about creating that environment that allows them to feel super comfortable with you.
Yes, absolutely.
And I imagine, like you said, all the things that you listed, being humble, like being very thoughtful, taking time for people, that all plays a huge part in how you make somebody feel when they're in your chair.
Absolutely. The biggest thing is to just like listen to see exactly like what the client is looking for, whether the client is like a production or a celebrity or just like an at-home client that you're doing. Listen first. Yeah.
100%. And what challenges did you face as you were trying to get into those rooms? Because, you know, you said that you networked, and that's super
Mhm.
important. Half the time it's who you know, not what you know. Um, I can imagine it still must have come, you know, with its challenges too.
Oh, definitely. Well, one of the challenges of being a freelancer is just net 90, net 30, but like half of the time they're like, okay, like half of the credits from the beginning of my career I didn't get paid for. So it was more so just to get the exposure just to prove that like I can actually do this.
Mm.
That was a really big struggle at the beginning was just I'm doing all of this great stuff, but I don't have any compensation for it. What most people don't realize about Fashion Week is you're not paid unless like a
Really?
product or a brand decides to like sponsor you, but those shows you're not paid for them.
Wow, that's insane though, because
Hmm.
hairstylists, makeup artists are, I mean, obviously the clothes and the accessories, they're the main part of the show, but without the hair and the makeup to bring the looks together, then, you know, you're missing a huge piece of the puzzle. So that really shocks me that people aren't paid for
Yeah, you're not
those
paid.
weeks. And have things like that changed since you started? Like, have you seen it like change, or is it just still very much the same that if you're there in Fashion Week, it's for free?
It's for free unless you have like a million, like if, unless you're like a social Instagram influencer type hairstylist,
Wow.
you're still not getting paid. Yeah, you would have to get like a brand deal or be some type of influencer to get monetary compensation for Fashion Week. It's still the same.
That's that's wild. And I mean, Fashion Week is one thing, but there is, and this is very much the case in the States. It's not really like this in the UK, but even in order to get on sets of like TV and film, you know, it's about getting into a union first before you can even do that. So first step,
Correct.
cosmetology school.
Correct.
You know, next step, how do you break into a union? So, you know, what advice do you have for stylists that are trying to do that?
The advice I would have for stylists is number one, to never give up. It took me 8 years to get into Local 706. Um, and I applied, what, 4 times? I thought I had my days 4 times. And the fifth time is when I actually got accepted, when all of my days counted, when all of my ducks were lined up in a row. So my biggest advice is to not give up and to keep track of every single call sheet, your pay
Um,
stubs, like even if it is online, print it out, put it somewhere important, and just keep looking at them, set dates in your phone for when those days start falling off, and to be on top of it, because when that day comes when you think you have your day, you should know, instead of being like, oh, I think I have the 30 days or the 60 days, or I think it's like 160 if you do the 60 60 60 rule. Um, but stay on top of your paperwork, keep going, say yes, say yes to everything, say yes to everything and figure it out after. Because literally nothing in this business, what I've learned, is guaranteed until you actually get a call sheet. So you could say yes to something and then it doesn't fall through, and you've already said no to two other things that were guaranteed.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I can imagine that's hard. And like for those that don't understand how unions work, you mentioned that there's a certain number of days that
Yes.
starters have to have worked. Can you like explain technically how that works?
Yes. So there are a few ways to get into Local 706. The most popular way is what we call a star waiver, meaning if
Okay.
you've already had a previous working relationship with a celebrity and they're either on a show or a film and they decide, or even a commercial, and they decide that they would like to bring you on, they talk to production, production contacts the union, they get a star waiver for you. And then at that point, you're approved to work on the union set. Now, at that point, in order for you to actually join Local 706, you have to have 30 of those days. Of that 30, it has to be the same production. So if it's a music video, it has to be that same music video for 30 days.
Right.
If it's only like 29, unfortunately, you don't qualify, but you have 29 union days. So at that point, you can keep those 29 union days. And what happens is they start to drop off after a year. So let's say August 1st of 2019, you have 29 days. August 1st of 2020, those days start to drop off.
Oh,
So you
okay.
have one calendar year to qualify for those days until they start dropping off again. At that point, when they expire, they can now go towards another way to get in, which is called like 60, 60, 60, which means you work 60 days within a calendar year for 3 years straight.
Okay.
And the tricky part about that is at that third year, if you don't have the 60, 60, 60, those days start dropping off.
Oh, wow.
So you, like when I say stay on top of paperwork, put dates in your phone, like you have
Oh,
to really be keeping track if you're going to try the 60, 60, 60 route, because it's a little daunting. Like most people get right at it and then their days start falling off.
oh,
Yeah.
okay. Wow. And it's so for that union, it doesn't have to be like consecutive days. It can just be at any point in that year you've collected those, either like those 30 or those 60.
Though it's a little it's a little tricky because the 30 won't count for a star waiver. So if you get 27 days for your star waiver, that you don't, like, you can't say, oh, I have 27 on this music video, and then with that same actor we go and do a film and I did 15 days and now I have 45. That won't count for the star waiver, but it'll count towards the 60, 60, 60.
Oh,
Hmm.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It feels like this has a lot of terms and conditions.
Yes, there is several terms and conditions. And how do I know this? Because like I said, I applied so many times. And I'm like, oh, I got it. No, you don't.
Okay, I now understand why it's like such a process to get
Hmm.
people in. So thank you for explaining that because I'm sure that's super
Yeah,
helpful for people that don't have the context of how that works. I know that all different unions operate in slightly different ways, but
yeah.
there are probably some ties into like the days that you have to collect.
Hmm.
But what I find really interesting is that there are so many Black actresses that have complained about not having enough access to texture tear stylists on
Hmm.
sets.
Hmm.
And then having like horror story experiences where you've got lead actresses in tears, which doesn't make sense to me, you know. But it feels like there is like this issue with creating that sense of diversity with crews on sets, you know, and hairstylists
Hmm.
having such a hard time even getting into a union to begin with. That seems
Hmm.
like a very massive barrier to climb when there are all of these women who are like, I just want to do my job and act and not have to worry that somebody doesn't know how to do my makeup or my hair when I turn up.
Hmm.
Um, so how do you think that we can start to tackle this and create those more diverse crews on set so that we can start to fix this problem?
I think we are better today than what we were a couple of years ago. I do see a lot more textured hairstylists in the trailers now. And it just, what started it was that conversation. People being on Twitter, people being on the news, people on Instagram. It opened up that sore for a lot of individuals who just, because unfortunately, industry is who you know, not what you know. So I hire my friends, you hire your friends. Sometimes, unfortunately, my friends might not know how to do textured hair, but as an actress, if you are going back to your trailer and you're kind of just like doing it yourself and not really saying anything, I think it's
Mm,
okay. And I'm not saying me personally, I'm just saying like in general.
mm,
And it just became the norm for so many years for so many people who just didn't know how to do it, but because she was in her room or somewhere just trying to do it herself, or she showed up ready, which even till this day, we have people that come, like, I'll reach out to an actor and I'm like, hi, we have a barber for you, we have a this,
oh,
just making sure like he feels accommodating. And I'll immediately get a text back that says, like, oh, I've already gotten like my hair cut, like, oh, I already went to my barber. And I'm like, no. Like, we have these things for you too. Like, we want you to feel just as important as
Mm,
whoever else is in the trailer or number one. Like, we want you to just show up, only worry about like the scenes, your lines, and like let us take care of the rest. I'm just
mm,
glad that the conversation started. It happened because I see the shift now where it matters. It matters to producers now. It's in the
mm.
contracts now where
Ah, okay.
you can like it's in the SAG contract as far as like it's a texture clause. So
Um,
any actor, regardless of their texture of hair, they can ask for a consultation with the hair and makeup department before they start work.
oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. So it's
That must,
definitely yeah,
sorry, I was gonna say that must make a huge difference to just turning up blind and not knowing whether there's gonna be anyone that really knows what they're doing.
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean it's a major difference for me as a hair department head because now production has to allow the time for me to actually get this person in the trailer ahead of time versus before where I'm like asking for someone ahead of time. They're like, no, we can't. That was the number one response. Oh, we can't. And it's like, okay, but I have the tools to like actually make this person be comfortable, and
Mm,
we can't get them here earlier. No, we can't. But
mm.
now with this contract in place, we can and we have to.
Oh, I love that because, like, another thing is, I have no idea how long it takes to make a film. So I'm just plucking numbers out of thin air. But let's say that people are filming for like 3, 4 months. And, that's 3, 4 months that somebody needs to feel really comfortable with you or your team doing their
Absolutely.
hair. And if you have like no rapport with them, no interaction with them, then that's a very easy way for somebody to walk in already feeling hesitant.
Hmm.
Because then they're just like, oh, okay, this is going to be me for the next 3 to 4 months, and I don't even know if this team of people can do what they need to do for my hair and my texture.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's amazing to see when people walk into the trailer and they just immediately
Oh,
like it's just like you see them walking and their like shoulders are up, but then when they come in the trailer, and for me the dead giveaway is them just looking to see that we just have their products. We just have like what
ah,
they've asked for. We just have like what they needed because we had a
mm,
consultation. Like I've already shot you a text. Like what do you like? What do you prefer? Like tell me about your hair. You've been with your hair longer than I have.
mhm.
So immediately they walk in, see it, they're like, okay. Like it starts to like open up that like trust wall.
Yeah, yeah. And I can imagine that that helps you to do your job and helps your team to do their job even better, you know. And you've also mentioned that, you're really big on client stylist transparency. So
Yeah.
what does that look like to you? And how can stylists be more transparent with their clients?
Mhm. Well, it starts with, like I said earlier, you have to like listen and ask questions. Like it starts with a consultation. If you show me a photo, okay, what about this photo do you like? Let's
Mm,
break this photo down. Like let's go through it and see if your hair is like 4C and you're showing me something with like 2B. I'm sorry, but I have to be honest and open and tell you like your hair won't do that unless we are putting
mm,
like extensions or something in it. You just, to build the trust, you just have to be honest and see exactly like, okay, are you wanting this wave pattern or do you like the color or the length? And just build from there. And if it's something that you can't do, just say you can't do it. Like,
mm.
don't attempt to do it and hope that it comes out right. Be transparent and honest with the person in your chair and say, like, oh, I can't do that, or I don't know how to do it, or let's experiment together and
Mm,
give them the option to say, like, okay, well, let's just try it and see what happens instead of, yeah, I have it and you don't.
yeah. And I think that's again one of those recurring horror stories that we hear time and time again, which is I gave them this picture and I don't look like that.
What I asked for versus what I got.
Yeah.
It's not it. Yeah.
And it's yeah, I guess it's really important. But I do feel like that transparency goes both ways though. Like
Mhm.
as much as it's important for a stylist to be like, okay, this might not be achievable today because of X, Y, and Z reason, or I might not be the best person for this, but I can connect you with somebody who is. It's
Right.
also really important for clients to tell
To be
stylists what's
honest.
happening and be honest, because if
Please be honest, especially when it comes to chemical services. Please, if I ask you if you put henna in your hair, don't tell me no because you put henna in your hair 10 years ago. That 10 years is still on your head. Like,
you
please just say yes. If I ask if you're taking medication, I don't need to know what kind. Just, yeah, I'm taking medication. Like, be honest.
Mm,
Both, like, please. Like, we're not asking to be nosy. We're not asking to pry. We're
mm,
literally asking for reasons that could
yeah.
literally be detrimental to your hair.
Mm, yeah. And I feel like people don't realize that the outcome that they want can really not happen
Hmm.
when they aren't honest as well. So transparency really does go both ways.
Absolutely. Because immediately it's our fault.
Yeah, there's definitely a problem there. I've had a stylist actually say to me, like they do consultations with people and they've said they've had people where they've had them come in for the consultation and they've not wanted to like give up some of that information. Like you said,
Hmm.
are you on medication? Yes or no? It's not my business what that is or why you're taking it. Do you have you ever suffered from certain health like issues? Like I can't think of anything off the top of my head now, but you know, are you stressed at work? Because stress will affect you as well. It's just simple little questions, and that they said this one person just didn't want to budge. So how do you deal with that if you need that information to do your job, but a client actually just doesn't want to part with it?
That's where waivers come into place. Where if you don't want to be honest with me, you don't want to like tell me what's going on, no problem. But here's a waiver, and if we
Mm,
can do the service today, but if anything happens, you can't hold me liable or responsible because I can't be
mm,
liable or responsible for something I didn't know.
yeah.
Hmm.
No, that's
Yeah.
actually a really good point. I hadn't even thought that waivers were really a thing in the hair industry. Um,
Oh no, waivers are definitely a thing because people get very sue happy when they're not forthcoming. So yeah, definitely protect yourself and have a waiver, especially. But if it's something where you also have to trust your professional judgment, if you know like they have color or henna, or if it doesn't feel right to you, refuse
mm,
service.
mm. No, it's true. Stylists do have to protect themselves. It's really important as much as, like you say, there are definitely challenges that people have had with finding the right stylist. Stylists also need to
Hmm.
feel happy and confident and comfortable with the people that are sitting in their chair. Um, because also sometimes things just happen and it's not necessarily that a stylist was careless, it's just actually that didn't end up the way that we thought it would. And they have to be
Right.
trusted to rectify it too.
Correct.
Um, and a lot of clients are now looking for stylists who know how to educate them about their hair because as we learned very quickly in COVID, we can't have our stylist come and live with us. So we must learn.
We're on lockdown too.
Yeah, we have to learn how to do our own hair to a degree when there is no stylist around. Um, so how do you feel about that? How do you feel about being the person that's also, like parting with that knowledge and educating your clients at the same time?
I always, always tell clients to defer to your stylist when you have questions instead
Mm,
of going to YouTube University. Why? Because you already have that relationship with your stylist and they already know your hair and they can already teach you what to do at home. So
mm,
that way you're not doing anything detrimental or undoing what they've been doing in the salon for you.
mhm,
Like, always just ask your stylist. Go to your stylist. Like, we're the most knowledgeable when it comes to your hair because we've had this working relationship together. Um, I mean, I always just love telling them and teaching them how to do things at home, because I know like financially sometimes things happen, and I would rather you ask me and me give you the tools and the products and all of the things that are necessary to do it at home than you like go to YouTube,
Mm,
because YouTube, sometimes people take that as like Bible or one fits
mm,
all, and it's not always like a one fits all situation. And she can be using like a titanium flat iron on her hair, but I use a
mm,
ceramic flat iron on your hair.
mm,
And you go and you purchase that one because she's like, this is the one that gets me the silk press.
mm.
But your hair is not strong enough for that. Most at home stylists that use titanium, they're only using it with one pass. Please just
Interesting.
defer to your stylist, because it's simple things like that that you may not realize what you're doing
Mm.
can really be damaging to your hair, because titanium is not, number one, you shouldn't be having it on like 455 degrees. Two, you should not be doing multiple passes, because that's exactly what you're doing. You're just singeing your hair. But
That-
YouTube, go into YouTube, they'll tell you, get a titanium flat iron. Do not. So always, always just ask your stylist. That's what we're here for. Like,
Mm,
never be embarrassed or ashamed to say, like, hey, I want to start doing my hair at home. Okay, great.
mm,
Like, because eventually you are going to come back to me. And that's what I
mm.
want. Like, I want you to come back to me and we just keep going instead of,
Yeah.
oh, now we got to get like a whole plan in place to get your hair back to a healthy state.
See. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it also feels like there there's trauma that is caused by bad hair experiences by choosing the wrong stylist, and then there's trauma that people cause themselves. And
Yes.
it's and it's unfortunately usually the best stylists that end up having to fix that, because they have this person that is like, I've had so many things that have gone wrong
Yes.
in their chair.
Yes.
And so when you do have those people that come to you who are like, actually, I've had 100 bad experiences and I really need to be handheld through this one. How do you work with those people to make sure that they feel super comfortable when they're kind of like still recovering from maybe the many bad things that have happened with their hair?
I always, I kind of always just explain. I always tell them what I'm doing at each step, what products I'm using. So that way, at any point, if they're like, oh, that doesn't work, or oh, this is what we did last time, we can stop
Mm,
before we even keep going. Um, yeah, but and to the client, like, speak up. If you see something about to be snitched or something, and stop the stylist. Like, please don't sit in a chair and just allow the damage of your hair to continue just for the sake
mm,
of like being like shy or not wanting to say anything. And if you genuinely like have a question, ask it. Like, but for those clients where they're just like, I trust you, I explain everything. I always like go through the whole steps before we even start. I say, okay, this is my plan, my course of
mm.
action for your hair today. Are we okay with this? Okay. And then even as we're still going through those courses, I'm still saying, okay, this is what I'm doing next. This is what I'm using. So by
Yeah.
the end, we should be satisfied because we've gone through 10 steps, and at
Yeah.
any point you could have like said no, or
Mhm.
can we try something else? Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean I think that's a really good way of going through that process. I think that
Mhm.
often getting your hair done is also a bit of like a therapy session for some people.
Yes.
You know, and it's important that we help to create those really great experiences so it can undo some of the bad ones that people might have been up against. But, and something that you mentioned, like when you're working with your celebrity clients and you're doing those consultations, they come in, you've listened, you've got the products that they've asked for, that makes them feel at ease. So just to like go back to products for a second, are there any ranges of products that you absolutely love? Um, if so, what are they? And, whilst everything isn't for everybody, it's always good to know what good companies are out there creating things that are great for our hair type.
Um, well, considering they won't pay me, no, I'm kidding. Yeah, no, there's like a bunch. I mean, honestly, I've gone back to like old school products these past couple of like months. Like, so there's a brand called Dudley, and under the like Dudley line, there is Design Essentials. There's Mizani, and people forget about like the staples because we every day we're getting like new products thrown at us, and I'm like, but there was nothing wrong with those products.
Mm,
We like our hair thrived on those products. Like I remember having silk presses when I was younger, living in LA. There was no
mm,
humidity back then, so I didn't need a relaxer. Just having like a silk press with my Dudley products. Oh, my hair was healthy as can be.
mm.
And now it's like, oh, there's like a million products around. So I've literally gone back to what I used to use. And shout out to Dudley's.
We will add a link to them in the newsletter for anyone who's curious. So don't
Yeah.
worry, you don't have to go Googling it right now. But thank you for the recommendation because like you said, the product market is very oversaturated.
Hmm.
And it feels like one of the biggest challenges outside of finding a great hairstylist is people finding the right products for their hair,
Correct.
and it can be hit and miss, and it can lead to people having a shelf full of products that they no longer use because it
Right.
was like, I'm going to try this, but it didn't work.
Hmm. Hmm. But it's also like we're always like looking for the next best thing when
Mm,
what you've already been using has been working. Like
yeah.
just if it's working, why are we trying to fix it? Like what are we fixing that doesn't need to be fixed, you know?
No, it's true. Sometimes we just have to be, if it's fulfilling the hair goal, whether that's healthy hair, like longer hair, transitioning from chemicals, whatever the goal is, if the product is serving its purpose, then sometimes it's just better to stick with what you already know.
Yeah.
Um, saying that, there are often, and you mentioned YouTube University as well, so I'm circling back to that. Um, we kind of live in an information age right now where there's I mean rightly or wrongly like a lot of people sharing their personal experiences with their hair. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's kind of great for people to have access to somebody whose hair looks similar to mine and they're having the same problem as I'm having, and kind of feeling seen in that way. But I feel like what it's also led to is a lot of like misconceptions around hair care and hair products, and because like you said, people will see these videos, read these articles that kind of take it for gospel. Um,
Hmm.
but no fault of their own, just that they don't necessarily have that knowledge.
Right.
Um, so what misconceptions about hair care do you come across often, um, that you think these really need to go in the bin?
Well, for starters, having a titanium flat iron and you're not a professional hairstylist, let's start there. If you were straightening that leave out all day, every day, please get a ceramic flat iron. Please do your leave out, the justice, and get a ceramic flat iron. And stop washing your hair with like rice, like fermented rice. Like I've seen that where they're like, oh, lint retention. I'm like, what? Rice is a starch. So you're not like you, it may feel better and it only feels better because that starch is just coating the cuticle of your hair, which in turn is suffocating the cuticle, not allowing it to breathe. And then eventually your hair will start to shed.
Oh.
So, yes, let's leave rice to be eaten. Like, yeah, let's stop like trying to do like science experiments with food in our hair. The stuff that is made for our hair is on the shelves. Like, trust me, you do not have to like become a chemist to create a conditioner for your hair. It is already made for you.
Mm.
Yeah, it is already made for you because mixing things up and you're not sure, like most people know like eggs and mayo is protein, and if you don't need protein but you're putting eggs and mayo and oil into your hair, you can have something called protein overload,
Oh.
where your hair becomes hard, dry, and brittle because it's too much protein when all you needed was moisture. So knowing like why are you putting eggs in your hair? And usually you need more protein when you are doing chemical services to your hair, where you like if you're relaxing it or texturizing it or coloring it, then yes, you need to do like a moisture protein balance. But
Right.
if you just have natural hair, you really barely would you need a protein treatment. But if that's all you're doing is like eggs and mayo and avocado oil and you're sitting with that overnight, that's too much.
That's so interesting. I feel like you have seen DIY gone wrong.
I have. I have. And then I have the person sitting in my chair because she's like, oh, for the past year, like my hair should be healthy and it's not. And I've been doing these like treatments at home where I'm using mayo and eggs and this and the apple G. And I'm like, okay, have you put any chemicals in your hair? No. My hair is virgin. So what would make you think you need a protein treatment? So for a
Mm,
full year, you've had loaded all of this protein into your hair where your hair
mm.
is just like enough. So now it's just dry and brittle.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, for everyone who is listening, if we have learned one thing today, no, if we have learned two things today, no titanium flat irons, please, and thank you,
No, no, no.
and no food products in your hair. Let's stick to the things like you said on the shelf.
Yes, yes. When in doubt, just ask your stylist. If you don't have a stylist, like try to build a rapport with one and then
Mm,
ask them. But I would rather you ask me than you go to like YouTube and find this like DIY and do damage to your hair that's going to take years to undo.
mm, mm. And
Yeah.
that's the thing, though. People don't realize it can be years. You know,
Mm-hmm.
if you do too
Mm-hmm.
much of the wrong thing too often, it can take a while to reverse that. I mean, not even reverse it. I guess you just
True.
have to wait for fresh hair to grow and
True.
gradually trim the rest off.
Mhm.
So yeah. So we've learned a lot today. Let's bookmark those ones, please. But another question on things that you hear from like clients, actually. So, what are some of the recurring questions that clients actually do come to you with? What are the things that people often don't know?
Um, how to blow dry their hair. Like this is like
Ah,
really popular, like how to blow dry and to just get a blow dry to where your root is not still wet or just still like kind of just stuck to your scalp still. Because most people use the like combs,
Yeah.
but it starts with after you condition your hair, like a good blow dry, you have to really condition your hair and detangle. And then move to the blow dry instead of like, washing it, throwing some conditioner on it, like, oh, okay, I got some conditioner on there, rinsing it out, and then trying to go through and blow dry.
Okay.
It wasn't properly hydrated. It wasn't
Um,
properly detangled. So now you blow dried it, but it's still number one, dry, and number
mm,
two, your root is still wet.
hmm.
So
That's
yeah, blow
really
drying.
interesting. Okay,
Well, because
that's
that's the
super
thing, most braiders now they say come with your hair washed and blow dried. So people are like, well, I haven't had to do that. So how do I do that? And then by the time you get to the braider, they're upset because now they have to spend time detangling and re-blow drying your hair.
okay. I did not realize that was a thing, but that totally makes sense. And on that, how do you feel about stylists now asking their clients to come with a certain amount of prep already done?
Okay, so braiding, yes, because that does take a longer amount of time. So, and I mean, even growing up, I've never gone to a braider that like washed and blow dried my hair. It was always come washed and blown out. Now to come wash and blown out to get like a sew in or coming wash and blown out to get a silk press, I think it's ridiculous. Like
Mm,
you should at least want to start from a clean place where you know that this is a fresh, clean slate of hair for you to continue.
mhm.
I don't understand the come wash and blow dried and then I'll silk press you. Absolutely not. Because I've done half the work. Like, no. No. Like I'm speaking as a client because I'm like, no. I've done half of the work. And also, what? I'm like, I can't. No, no. Braiding, I see it because sometimes it takes like 8 to 12 hours. And if I
Mm,
get there and now I have to wash and blow dry my hair and detangle it if we haven't gone and detangled it in a while, then that's
mhm,
adding like an extra hour to an hour and a half, depending on how much hair the client has,
mhm,
to an already long, extensive service.
mm.
So, in that sense, yeah, no big deal. And braiders aren't licensed. Braiders usually don't have like the knowledge of proper sanitation when it comes to hair.
Mm.
So, personally, I wouldn't want a braider washing and blow drying my hair because what products are they using?
Yeah,
What products
okay.
are they using? What type of blow dryer are they using? Like, in that sense, when
Okay.
it comes to the health of your hair, definitely do that at home because you're going to an unlicensed stylist because
Yeah.
braiders aren't required to have a license.
Okay. No, that makes sense. I hear that. Um, oh, that's interesting. So is it just like for chemical treatments then that people have to be licensed for, but anything else they can technically do?
Chemical services, chemical and cutting.
Oh, okay. So if they basically want to be able to do the ins and outs of everything,
Yeah,
cosmetology school is an absolute must.
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Because it's a very different system over here. There isn't that level of regulation in the UK.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, it doesn't work like that at all, but that's a story for another day. But you've had, like I said, this incredible career, um, and you fought to get there because you started off by going down the path that your parents really wanted you to go down, and then you came back. Um, so how have other stylists played a role in helping you to get where you are today?
Oh man, just like word of mouth, correction. Like I don't know it all. I never like pretended to know it all. Like if you see me doing something wrong and you're like, hey, like you should do it this way, and I'm like, thank you.
Mm,
Being a like team leader, being a cheerleader, like being a support. Also just being like, hey, I'm gonna throw your name in for this.
mm.
Um, yeah, they've all they all know who they are too. They've all played like special roles and just like helping me move forward.
I mean, it's always great to have people that are either mentoring you or, like you said, being the cheerleader.
Yeah.
It can make a huge difference, especially in spaces like this where it's a challenge. You know, fighting a union is one thing. Um, it sounds like that's a battle already, but when you have good people around you, it must make a huge difference.
Oh man, it makes the world of a difference. And it just like when we already have like super long days on set. So it's
Mm,
like just being around great supportive people, it just makes the day go by so much faster and we have so much fun.
yeah.
And it's not like a competition or don't do this or it's just collaborative. Let's get this day going. Let's get through these 16 hours together and have a blast.
Mm, no, and yeah, 16-hour days are already, like you said, very long. So what you want is like that energy of the right people around you
Yes.
when when you're there. So I love that, and it's great to hear that you've had that system because it's not something that everybody has been fortunate enough to have as well.
Mhm.
Um, but we'll wrap up with our last question now. So given the amount that you have already done, I can imagine that there's a lot of projects that you must be involved in or planning to be involved in. So it would be great to know what's next.
What's next? A couple projects are in the works right now. They're secret, so I can't really say what. But like when they come out, I'm gonna be like posting and jumping praises because they're really cool and like the actors that are part of them are super dope. But um constantly evolving, that's what's next. Is just constantly evolving with this like forever changing industry, constantly just improving my skill set. That's what's next. Hopefully more films in the future.
Amazing. Well, we will keep an eye out on the secret stuff that's coming up. Um, for those that don't already follow Pushon on socials, we will be adding links to her profile so that you can keep an eye on all of the amazing things that will be coming up. Because like you said, they're secrets for now, but they will come out eventually and we'll know.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, you'll be able to follow her to keep an eye on those things that are coming up that she just briefly mentioned. But as we wrap up, I just want to say a big thank you, Shauna, for coming on and having this chat with us. Sharing all of your knowledge, sharing like your history as well, where you come from and where you're going to. It's been an amazing chat. And yeah, like I said, we're very lucky to have some of your time.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored. I appreciate just like wanting to interview me.
Oh, that's fine. Like we're the ones that are super lucky. And for all of our listeners who have made it all the way to the end, thank you. We hope that you laughed along with us and you walked away with more knowledge about the things to do and not to do with your hair, or if you're a stylist, the things to start doing and to stop doing with your clients. Like I said, anything that was mentioned, any products that we can add links to, they'll be in the newsletter. So don't worry, you don't have to like go on Google in a hurry. And if you've liked this, then please like, share, comment, and also make sure that you send it to people that you know could benefit, whether it's your hairstylist, people that you know that are training to be hairstylists, or friends that just love talking about all things related to hair. because we want to make sure that we're helping as many people as we can. But again, a big thank you for listening, and we will see you on the next episode.